Welcome, sir. Thank you, and congratulations on the film. It is, of course, based on the real-life meeting, courtship, health dramas of Kumail Nanjiani and his wife, Emily Gordon. But the family aspect of it is so crucial to the story. What were some of those early conversations like with you and Kumail about what his family situation's like, what his conversations with his father was like?
Well, good afternoon. Lovely to see you all and my fellow actors. You know, actors have a amazing nervousness because they always want to impress. And I was happy to see another bald guy. So that was my comfort level. Thank you. I think it was Kumail's father's wish. And he said, if you really love me, get Anupam Kher to play my role. And because in that side of the world, I had already done about, by the way, 500, this is my 500th film, The Big Sick. So he basically called me up because his earlier agent was a person that she knew me. And he said, I want Anupam Kher for this role, and how do I approach it? So she said, just call him. So I get one day a call from Kumail, and he said, I'm Kumail, and I'm making this film, and I want you to play my father. I said, okay. It was as simple as that. Yes. Because I wanted to do something, 500 film as a landmark film for my life, and this turned out to be like that. But you know what happened exactly when I came here? I came here on a visa that was not really a work permit to start with. And then there was a problem with some work permit visa, and I was waiting every day for 9, 10 days. And then finally, my producer, Barry Mendel, said that, okay, by tomorrow, we do not get your work permit by 2 o'clock. Then I'm sorry, Mr. Kher, we have tried to sort of work out all the other scenes, and then we will have to find somebody else. And I literally got work permit at 12:30. I do a autobiographical play which is called Kuch Bhi Ho Sakta Hai. That means anything is possible. This was another proof that anything is possible in my life. So it was great. And then the best part about Big Sick was that they let you improvise a lot. You can make out that there are improvisational scenes. There are a lot of lines that were worked out on the spot. So it was quite an enriching experience.
Do you like that? Do you like improvising while shooting? Is that, because I know some actors don't. Some actors want to be able to kind of have that structure to them. Do you like improvising?
I went to a school where A, B, C, D, the alphabet were taught in 5th standard. I went to a local municipal school, so I think in my mother tongue. This is okay that I can talk to you in English, but if I'm given fixed dialogues, then I have to rehearse them, I have to translate them in my mind in English, then make them as if this is my first language. So improvisation helps me as an actor. Also, I think in comic sequences, it's better to have improvisational possibility, because even in Silver Linings Playbook, David O. Russell has a habit of throwing lines at you while you are doing those scenes. So I love improvisation. Not necessarily every time your improvisation is accepted by the director, but I always tell the director that out of 10, if you take 3 suggestions of mine, I have made it. So that's okay.
You mentioned that comedically it helps. I want to sort of talk about the comedic, dramatic line that is very gently walked in this film, and specifically your final scene in the film, when you come up to Kumail on the street and give him the treat in the Tupperware there, and it's so affecting. So many of your scenes are affecting in the film, but that one in particular, because when you say to him, "I've enjoyed having you as my son," there is a note of finality to that, and that you sort of get the sense that while other aspects of the story will be going on, that really the finality of his family cutting him off is real and very honest. And I'm wondering if you and director Michael Showalter and Kumail talked about where to sort of hit a little bit more dramatic, comedic in that moment, in that scene.
It's ironical that was my first scene to be shot.
Wow.
And you can imagine that before that, for 10 days, I was waiting that whether I'm going to get my visa or not, my work permit or not. So I also, when you've done so much work, everybody looks at your first shot. Is he worth it? Is he really worth all this praise that you get? And this is a pressure that you can't really deal with. Uh, but for me, when I'm doing a scene like that, I have to like the person. And Kumail is a very nice person. It's easily a likable person. And we think alike. We do come from two different countries, but I think being an Asian, it's very easy. And I've gone through these situations in Indian films. I just had to translate that into English. And it was okay. There is no way that you can take a shortcut. I feel that if you're competent, you can never be brilliant. And it's important to be brilliant first by thought, by emotions, and then Showalter is a very good director. He really, really allowed you to do that. And then we bring in that song of an Indian song. And so it was nice. I think it was... I don't want to make it sound that I had really worked very hard and my emotions from inside came and then I felt this thing. And then it's not. It's as an actor, it's 90% is just be the character and 10% is acting, I personally feel. So I don't want to make a big thing out of it. The scene was there and I wanted to do it well and I wanted to impress people around me and I wanted to sort of make them feel it was worth waiting for me. Yeah, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So that's it. It will be very nice and very impressive for me to sort of say, actually, when the street at that time was lit, it was 5:30 in the afternoon, and the sun was rising and the light was falling on my side, and my heart felt this emotion for my son. Son and son, and you see, so I can do that, but let's not take ourselves so seriously. There are a lot of actors who have come before me and there are a lot of actors who will come after me. I think it's important to enjoy the journey rather than constantly look for destination. So I think that's important.
Beautifully said. It does bring up a fascinating point, though, and I think a lot of our actors here would be interested to hear your thoughts on this, because what obviously filming out of sequence, a sequence like that, a scene like that, seems to me to be the heart of the relationship between the two of them. There are others. Did you see that scene as maybe one of the crucial moments between them? And if so, then did you have to make sure other scenes following kind of, followed in that line?
No, and you're absolutely right. That was the scene where actually, if you see the whole film, that's the only scene which has some kind of meat for me as an actor. So I had to put in everything that I had to. I had to sort of keep working out various possibilities of how to do it. But what I wanted to basically convey was this warm-hearted man whose wife is waiting in the car, and he's saying that, you see, she's stopping me from hugging you, but I'm dying to hug you, and this kind of a thing. So the warmth of the person needed to be more important than the craft of the actor. Sometimes I think it's very important to just get across the dominating emotion of an actor, or of the character, rather than think how to go about the scene. It was not... I needed to feel love for Kumail, and I, in my mind, knew that we will come and meet again. He will come back to us, whatever, things are fine, etc., etc. And the mother also sitting in the cab and the car is not necessarily giving it a final look. She's pretending to be angry. So I think that was what it was, yeah.
You mentioned her. Let's give a round of applause, by the way, to Zenobia Shroff, who plays Kumail's mother in the film.
Yes. Yeah, I was working with her for the first time, and she was brilliant. It was wonderful to work with her because we had never worked, and then I personally feel that Indian heart is larger than life. We do things loudly, we laugh loudly, we eat with passion, we do things... there's nothing subtle about us, So that helps. That kind of warmth helps. And she had seen a lot of my movies, not necessarily the best movies of mine. So she was surprised that, he finally maybe has done something good also in movies. Because when you do 500 films, all of them can't be classic. And as long as you can say, and then you have a family or your brother or your wife, and my wife is an actress and she's also member parliament. She is like the biggest critic she goes to a cinema hall with me with her arm around my arm, And depending on my performance, that arm moves away from arm. And then sort of she does this. And then she said, I have nothing to do with you. And why the hell did you do this film? And how horrible you are. And so is my brother like that. If he sees a performance of mine and I have to call him, I'm half frightened. And I say, so how was it? He said, very bad. So they are not subtle about it. So Zenobia was, I think, apprehensive. Then she became okay. Then her arm actually came around me by the end of the performance. Yes, it was. Yeah.
Did you and Zenobia have a work out an interplay a little bit, kind of almost like a good cop, bad cop? Because there is sort of scenes around the dinner table where you see in both of you a little bit of she's obviously pushing him, she's trying to get him into an arranged marriage. I feel in some ways there's glance you want the same thing of him, but maybe you have different expectations of him and you're aware of the dangers or the pitfalls of an arranged marriage. Did the two of you kind of work out what your interplay would be like as parents on film?
I personally feel as an actor, if you're doing a scene like that, which is dining table scenes where especially the characterization was there in the script, I feel that in the rehearsals I must do extra. It's better to do more than the director can cut it off, and then rather than play less. I think it helps when you are doing it more. So there were lines with Zenobia had really worked out how to be strict and things like that. And I was just throwing lines here and there, everything. And the best part of this shooting was that it was a very improvised kind of possibility of scenes. So, and the reactions between Kumail and me and our elder brother, Adil. So it was, when four actors meet and they're hungry, there's magic always. You know, that magic comes across when there is hunger and there is such good substance to eat. The script is very good, the lines are very good, the scenes are very good. You just sort of, you will be an idiot if you don't do well. So I thought there was Zenobia and it's acting, we have to do that as an actor. I think we have to, otherwise I'll not be sitting here. Thank God for doing that I did that. I mean, I may not say it again and again, but it's a great honor to be sitting on this line and on this chair, to be talking to you. I don't take life and things for granted. Anything. I think everything that happens to you is one step ahead of you. I was nervous outside. I was thinking, what should I say? What should I do? And what is it that I want to convey? And then I go through my life. I come from a very poor family. My father was a clerk in the forest department. We lived in a place called Shimla, which is up north in India. My father used to earn $1.50 per month. And the only thing we had to do was to dream about good life and to dream about one day being famous. And from that to this graph, I think it's a great achievement. And I keep thanking God for that. And so that's an amazing feeling.
I'm interested, speaking of your own background and what one of the things that Kumail mentions in the film is obviously he's saying, you know, there's lawyer, there's doctor, and then there's a bunch of jobs you don't want, and then there's comedian. But you had a struggling life in the late 70s, early 80s as you were a struggling actor. Was there a similar thing for your family, or were there differences in how they viewed the life of an artist?
I had the most amazing father. My father was the biggest fan of mine. From the first play that I did in the 5th standard till the last film he saw of mine. He used to have this expression, oh my God, my son is the best thing that has happened. So I think that helped me a lot. And he used to send me money. When I say that I was a struggling actor, I was literally for 2.5 years, I was on the streets. I have slept on a railway platform for 27 days. And I was a trained actor. Not many actors in India are trained actors. I was a gold medalist from a drama school, etc., etc. That struggle was not there. It was not the struggle that we think. It was a really bad struggle. There was times when I did not have money to buy food. But I'm a great optimist. I think that's the only way to live. You can't live in any other form but optimism. For me, the ultimate definition of optimism is everything is okay in the end. If it is not okay, it is not the end. So it was difficult. And you know, this is a very dignified, sexy, bald stage. you know. But when you're losing here at that time, in early 20s, half the hair are gone from here. And in India at that time, in late 70s and early 80s, hair were much more important than performances. So you see, I was losing hair from this side. I was very thin. I was so thin that I could see through a keyhole with both my eyes. So, by the way, this is a line from a Russian actor, and I always use that, unless somebody says, oh, he used that Nitsisky's line. But I had this knowledge that I am very good because I knew Tennessee Williams, Ilya Kazan, Arthur Miller. But on education level, I was very good. And my grandfather used to say, if you work very hard and if you're honest, you always achieve what you want to achieve. And I didn't want to prove him wrong. But there were days when I was miserable. And one day, there was this very powerful director who had made an amazing film. I went and met him, and by this time I was very low in my life. And he said, yeah, I've heard about you. You do some theater. You're a good actor. I was frustrated. I said, you've heard wrong. I'm not a good actor. I'm a brilliant actor. He said, you are doing the main role in my next film. That's a different story that 10 days before the film, I was thrown out of the film. This first film of mine, I was 28 and I played a 65-year-old man's role. And 10 days before the film, my friend of mine called me up and he said, I have heard that you are not in that film. I said, what's wrong with you? I've done 6 months rehearsal. I've done makeup trial, costume trial. I'm shooting on the 1st of January 1984. And this was on 20th of December. He says, no, I went to the studio. And so I called up this director who had been working with me all for 6 months. And I said, Mr. Bhatt, is it true that I'm not doing and some very famous actor is doing? He said, yeah, you see the production people, the producers do not want a newcomer. So I said, I must leave this city of Mumbai. It doesn't deserve me. So I packed my luggage, and as I took the cab to the railway station, I said, now I have nothing to worry about as far as this director is concerned. I can tell him what I actually think of him. You know, having lived with grandparents, my grandfather also used to say, if you want to be equal with anybody in the world, don't expect anything from the other person. So now he had thrown me out, and I went to his house, and he opened the door. He said, oh, I'm doing the other old man's role. It's not a big role, it's not a main role, but do that. So I said, no, Mr. Bhatt, just come to the window. And I said, there is a cab down. All my luggage is here. I'm leaving this city. I'm going back to my hometown. But before I go, I want to tell you, you're the biggest fraud on this earth. I said, you're making a film about truth. You don't have truth in yourself. How can you make this film? Now, I was, as an actor, not getting a climactic line. So after saying all this, and this is a very mild way of saying that, but I was crying. I was howling, and I was desperate. And and finally, I said, now I have to give it a climax. I said, and I said, I'm a Hindu, I curse you. And I almost imagined those lightning things coming out of my hand. And he was horrified. And I walked down the stairs. I did not wait for the lift because I thought if I stand for the, standing man waiting for the lift after this looks very weak kind of a thing, no? So I said, no, the exit has to be amazing. And as I was getting out of the house and getting into the cab, he shouted from 6th floor. He says, come up. I said, ah, like that. He says, come up. I said, why? I'm going. He said, come up. You are doing that main role. And as they say, rest is history. If I had not done that, maybe I would have not been sitting here. So as a fellow actor, I want to say that fight for it. It's important to fight for what you think is right.
It's a great story. And bravery, of course, so important. And to your early days, the idea that do what you love, the money will follow. Because
and that's why 500 films, because when I did my first film, because I had seen 3 years of horrible times, misery, poverty, lack of dignity, I just signed films left, right, and center. In 1 week, I signed 57 films. Yeah, I know. When I did one scene with Mr. Woody Allen, he said, I believe you've done a lot of films. I said, yeah, by the time I think I had done 412. He said, 412 in how many lives? So, no, God has been kind. I should say that, yeah.
Well, and a terrific career. We're going to take some questions now from, we've got a couple of cards here, but the first one is from SAG member Dara O'Brien. She asks, can you talk about the differences working in film in India and in the US, Britain, abroad, any other places? What's the difference?
You know, my first English language film was Bend It Like Beckham. And we first time did a reading of that film. Out of these 500 films, let me tell you that the script I have got of only, say, about 54 films. Rest of the films were narrated to us. We are narrated the script. Much before the film starts, you're said that this happened and then there is no script. And so Bend It Like Beckham, we did the reading, etc. What I found was acting is the same. It means we're capable of doing everything. But I felt that the professionalism was much more when you work abroad. But that also takes away sometimes the warmth that we have on the sets. It's not a criticism, it's an observation. You know, in India, when you work, you have to reach at 8, you reach at 8:30, 8:40, then you stop by the light man and you said, how is your family? How is everything? Okay, let me have some tea. So what is the scene? Tell me the scene. Okay, fine. Then what happens? You know, last night. So there is no stress. You're sitting, then they say, then you get ready, then you do the scenes, etc. What happens abroad is the moment you get out of the car, the AD comes, the wardrobe is ready, makeup is ready, everything is ready. So initially it took me a little time to sort of adapt to it, but I love it. And we are just a 68-year-old country, and I think entertainment was the last thing that was on our mind after independence. So now in the last 5-10 years, with all the marketing open, with so many, channels opening, Hallmark and Star movies and everything, we have the kind of audiences that we can work for. So now there is a lot of different potential. A lot of paperwork goes about into. Now a lot of corporates have come into. All the big studios over here have come into India. So there is a little more systematic kind of a thing. But sometimes I miss asking a light man, so how is your family and how is everything? And also we don't get sacked over here in India. We don't get fired. So there is no fear of that. So if you break something, the producer will say, don't do that next time, okay? Please, put it in my account. What's wrong with you? Not well today? Something is wrong with you? Your family is not fine or something like that? So I think there are a lot of vibes that people give to the studios, to the sets, to the scenes. A lot depends on that. But otherwise, it's wonderful to be working with Mr. De Niro. Means it was surreal yesterday. I went to have, I'm showing off, to have lunch with him. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was amazing to work with David Russell. It was amazing to work with this great team that I worked with. So these are your dreams. These are how many actors? I'm the only actor in India who's shared the screen space with Mr. Robert De Niro. Means what else can I ask for? It's amazing.
Yeah. You have a funny story, right, that we mentioned earlier off stage here that goes along with Silver Linings Playbook. And Mr. De Niro, do you want to riff on that a little bit, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting story. Again, my theory of how kuch bhi ho sakta means anything is possible. So I got to know about this film, and I had just finished watching Fighter, and my agent in London said that there is a role in Silver Linings Playbook of a psychiatrist, of Dr. Patel, and David wants to Skype with you. I had never done Skype before that. And this information came to me in a remote village in India, in Rajasthan. So I said, Fighter? David Russell? And she said, also Mr. De Niro is there and Bradley Cooper is there, and so huge, great cast. So I told Herman, he's my manager, and I said, finally, get me to Skype. So in 2 days' time, Skype became a folklore in that village. Skype is coming, Skype is coming, Skype is coming, Skype is coming. And finally, Skype came, basically. There was a connection taken, etc. Internet connection happened, and I was on this side of the computer, and the whole village was on the other side of the computer. And I'm not exaggerating. This is exactly how it happened. That's innocence of India. And David came on the screen, and unfortunately there was no sound. So he couldn't hear me, and I had put papers all over this thing on the screen so that I could look around and sort of say my lines as if this is because to me it was too nervous thing. So finally he said, "I can't hear you. I can't hear you." I could. So it got disconnected. I said, "Now this role is gone." Then I was in Toronto Film Festival, and again something like this happened, and sound was not okay. I was in a 5-star hotel, and one Bangladeshi room service guy was making my tea. And David said, "If you don't send me the link by day after tomorrow, I don't know what to say." So I was very depressed. As Indians, we tell our stories to everybody who says, "What happened?" We tell our stories to everybody. And this Bangladeshi guy, Jamil, who was making tea, for him, I was Robert De Niro. Indian actor, Dada. Dada means elder brother. He said, "Dada, what is the problem? Why are you so sad?" I said, "This is what happened, my film, and I was going to work with Mr. De Niro, and this has not happened." He said, "No problem. I have an iPhone 4. I can take an audition." So my audition for Silver Linings Playbook was done by this Jamil, who was making tea for me from room service. And I had told him, when I do this, say action. And when I said do this, just say cut. So he said, I did this, he said, "Action, Dada." Cut, Dada. Finally, I got this. And I reached Philadelphia, and I did my scenes with Bradley. And now is the day that I'm waiting for Mr. De Niro's scene. So I had got this beautiful Ganapati, that's Lord Ganesha's thing, for Mr. De Niro. I have drama school performances of his, Godfather, Awakening, and all those things. Means I had done. I'm on Twitter, and I had done some contest about which is your favorite film, etc. And I was told by first AD, that Mr. De Niro will meet you straight on the set. We are doing an important scene. He's not. I requested. I said, "Look, this is. I have got for him. I need to meet him, and I need, please, please, please." So he called. He said, "Bob is calling you." I said, "Bob?" I didn't know that he's also called Bob De Niro. I always call him Mr. Robert De Niro. So I went, and he had this huge van, and I went like this, and I looked at him, and I said, I had tears in my eyes, tears of, I don't know. He said, "What's it?" I said, "No, I'm just moved by my own journey." Now, this is just happening. I don't plan because I don't think in English. So in my mind, I said, in Hindi, in my mind, I'm saying, no, this is, I'm just can't believe that I'm standing in front. But in English, it came out, I'm just moved by my own journey. So I gave him, he was very happy. He sort of took pictures with me and things like that. But when I went on the sets, this is that scene where we all come back from the game, and Mr. De Niro is very upset, if you've seen the film, I'm sure. And I had 3 lines in the 11-page scene. One on page 1, one on page 8, and one on page 11. But I was so happy that the whole cast is there, and I'm part of this historical scene. But when I went on the set, Mr. De Niro was Mr. De Niro. He was in the character. He was angry. He was mad because he was working himself up. He was throwing the sweater out and things like that. And first thing he said to Mr. David Russell, he said, "David, I don't think I should tolerate this Indian doctor in my house because of him, my son has got into problem and he could have been sent to the jail. I don't think I should be having him." I said, "What is he saying?" So David said, "Okay, so what do you think, Bob, you will do?" He said, "I will throw him out of the house." So, no, absolutely correct he was. His interpretation was bang on. Because of me, he had gone into problem. So he said, "Okay, David, Bob, I need to see this scene." So my first line before he could come, he caught hold of my arm, he said, "Yup," whatever he says. And then he threw me out of the house and he bolted the door from inside. And I'm standing alone with S written on my chest, naked, October, Philadelphia. And the scene is going on inside. I'm outside. After 45 minutes, David said, I think it's working. We'll do one more time because it's been with me for 2 years, the scene has been, and Dr. Patel is there. So again, I could say my first line, Mr. De Niro, and I'm thinking outside, 460 films, National School of Drama, the highest honor from Indian government. And nobody's coming to me because Bob has thrown me out. Nobody's coming with a sweater or with a, jacket or something like that. And I'm feeling miserable. But I understood. So when I came in, now 1.5 hours has been wasted. So they said, okay, now we must do the scene. Let's say, okay, Anupam, you will just throw your. Now again in my Hindi thinking, I said, one sec. So now everybody is impatient, all the producers, everybody. He said, yeah, Anupam, what is it? I said, no, it will take more than 2 minutes. Please sit down. All of you sit down. So I said, now I'm trying to say, please don't do this to me. But in English, it came out, there are 8 interpretations in this scene. There are 8 characters. Why aren't you listening to my interpretation? There was a pin drop silence. Means, is Mr. Kher actually saying this or we are hearing it? I said, no, we only heard one interpretation of this character, Bradley Cooper's father's character. I also have an interpretation. Now, this was said with a lot of innocence. So David said, what is it? I said, my interpretation will be that I will say it's because of you, your son is like this. And had I not been in his life, he would have not been okay. And second thing is that I will not get out of the scene. What? I said, I am not going to get out of the scene. I have done this film for this scene. I have to speak those 3 lines. Again, you have to say what you feel. But it was very gracious of David and Mr. De Niro. Then they did the rehearsal without throwing me out. So I am in that scene. But I claim that because of that incident, I can claim to say that I'm friends with Mr. De Niro. He invited me for his 70th birthday, and yesterday I had lunch at his house. So God is kind.
Important to stand
Always say what you feel, because it always works. That's all I can say to actors, to people, as actors. We talk about communication, but unless we communicate what we feel, we are going to be lonely. So I have to say that talking to you is the most beautiful feeling for me. Listening to their laughter, their clapping, I'm a richer person today. I'm a really richer person, and there is no shame or there is no subtlety about conveying that to you. Means I could have come in and sort of say, yeah, so what is your next question, please, sir? Thank you. So I'm happy. Thank you so much for being so wonderful to me. Yes.
And thank you very much. We are richer for this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, Anupam Kher. The movie is The Big Sick. Thank you, sir, so much.